And we are continuing our Golden Years series here on The Social, focusing on the challenges and also the opportunities facing Canada's aging population. So today we're going to be talking about aging in place. And research has found that 96% of Canadians do want to age in the comfort of their own homes. However, still a lot of obstacles along the way.
Our next guest is an author and investigative journalist at the Toronto Star whose work has focused on the realities of aging in Canada. Moira Welsh, welcome back to The Social.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you here. So Moira, I want to dive right in because when we're talking about getting older as Canadians, why is aging in place such an urgent conversation right now?
Good question. And there are two overarching reasons. One is we didn't really plan for it. We knew that there was a large demographic of first-wave boomers who would be aging in this time, but we really didn't create supports for them. And secondly, they don't want to live in nursing homes. And the reality is that in nursing homes, you cannot get a bed in a nursing home unless you're significantly diminished cognitively or medically and physically. So the options are aging in place.
Well, we often hear about the shortcomings of nursing homes, but we don't hear really about the reality of aging at home. So what has your research shown you?
It's a great term, and it's not the great panacea of our times without the proper supports. And I did a story, it was published in the Star in December, and I followed an organization, not-for-profit organization called House Calls, and they send doctors and medical workers into homes of older adults who cannot leave their homes. And what I saw while I was on sort of tour with the physicians were these people who were in their 80s and 90s, and they were literally aging in place, as in aging in a chair. And they would spend 15 hours a day in a chair. And what they had was little tables set up on either side of them with their most important possessions that they could reach for: the phone, the TV remote, the medication, and so on. And if a home care worker did not come in that day and they didn't have anybody else there, they would end up staying in that chair overnight, or sometimes staying in a bed overnight until the next worker would come into their home. So it's extreme isolation.
I mean, I have the question, what is your biggest concern for Canadians aging in place? Is it that, or is it something else?
It's isolation. If you have money and the wherewithal and a lot of family, then it's probably fine. If you need to hire someone, you can afford to hire someone. But if you don't, like a great many people do not, because it can cost for 24 hours, 7 days a week, it can cost $300,000 a year to provide home care, depending on your medical needs. So a lot of us cannot afford that. So isolation is the piece. We need supports to go in. These people are saving government's money by aging at home, and yet we're not providing any way for them to do that in a healthy way.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. If you don't have loved ones and you want to age in place, you do have to rely on government services. So what is the state of the union when it comes to that?
It's iffy. The more diminished you are, the more hours you would get. But certainly there was a wait list. I did a story in 2022, and the wait list for home care at that time was about 20,000 people, the majority of which were over the age of 60, waiting for home care services. So you could get, if you had significant cognitive decline, even with a family caregiver living with you, with a spouse, you could get, say, 10 hours a week or 24 hours a week, but that is not enough to help that caregiver support them. They become very diminished as well. It's very difficult.
It's very hard on them. All right, so Moira, you say the most realistic and promising solution for aging in place are something called NORCs, and that stands for Naturally Occurring Retirement Communities. What exactly does that look like?
That is not a pre-built retirement home. It's not a pre-built community aimed at older adults. It's an apartment, a condo, or even a neighborhood where it's multi-generational, but people have just aged in place. So there's a preponderance of older adults there. And for a story that I did in 2022, I went to New York City, where they originated in all their co-op buildings, and they provide, so they bring in government-paid supports. They have legislation from the state and the city, and they send in an executive director to organize the supports. They have social workers. They have nurses to do health promotion work. They bring in the community to help people with isolation. And what they found, and why the government continues to fund it, is that it saves them money. People are not going into hospitals. They're not going into nursing homes to the extent that they might have. They're able to age in place.
Love that.
All right, and we're also seeing Norks. Are they being adopted here in Canada, those Norks?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Slowly but surely. Queen's University in Kingston is working with an Oasis organization, and they have initiated several Norks in apartment buildings in Kingston, and they're working through a few in Ontario and Vancouver. And University Health Network and the Nork Innovation Center is also starting the research and implementation in the city.
That's so great. Okay, if whoever's watching, for anybody in the audience, and we're like, okay, we want to age in place. What do we need to know to start preparing now so that this is a realistic option for us to age in place?
Take the stairs. Work out, do yoga, be fit, start boxing, whatever it is, because fragility is the scourge of old age. And if we fall and break bones, you likely will decline. And so that's a key point. If you're able to do that, it's good to start early. Secondly, plan with your family. Talk about where you would like to go, how you would like to live. Try to create a built-in community around you so that you have friends and people close by. And plan financially, because a lot of us, especially women, we live longer and we could outlive our money. And so it's really important to have those conversations. And I think a key piece of that is trying to save money or find other ways to bring in money would be, for example, the Canada Home Share program, where they bring in students to billet, so to speak, or rent a room in your home, and it helps with isolation. They could help with chores, and it gives the homeowner who might otherwise be on her own some extra money every month.
Well, that sounds hopeful.
Great.
Maura, thank you so much for coming and enlightening us into the work you do.
Thank you.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.